Hi, my name is Rick Schnabel. I'm with Life Beyond Limits, and a question that I am asked with frequency is, why can't we solve our own problems? Why is it that we usually need outside help in order to resolve our issues or to be able to solve problems? The reason is very simple. When we find ourselves in a problem, typically what happens is there is usually emotion attached to that problem. Now, when we take emotion out of the problem, which often a consultant or a coach or a therapist is able to do, we find it very difficult to be able to do that, because problems with emotions attached actually fog us and create a great deal of noise. That noise means that we can't actually see our problems as clearly as we need to in order to resolve them as problems. Now, for example, all problems typically are almost like mathematical formula. In other words, this happens, then that happens, then this happens, and we get that outcome. Now that is very linear. So most problems are in fact quite linear. This happens, that happens, etc. But some of those parts of the formula are often emotional. And it's those emotions that make the formula very, very difficult to unpick and shift and change. What typically someone like a coach does is they will see the problem from another dimension. In other words, they'll see the problem from another perspective, and they will not have the emotion attached, and they'll be able to see it much more clearly and be able to unpick it and present it to us in a logical way. Now that's one reason that typically we can't solve our own problems. There, of course, is another reason. Our problems essentially have so much complexity to them that it's very difficult for us to find out the beginning, the middle, and the end. Plus, we also create patternistic type thinking. In other words, we're stuck in a pattern that we can't see. Over the years, I've coached so many people. I think I now have around 37,000 plus hours in my coaching, that after a while you get to see people's problems very simply and very clearly. You start to see patterns. Now, the reason that we don't solve our own problems is because we're actually in a pattern that we are unaware of, or we cannot see it. So you will often see things like people who find themselves in relationships and then breakups, relationships, breakups, relationships, breakups, will be so stuck in the emotion and also so stuck in the story and the patterns, equally might be stuck in the blame game, that they cannot see their own patterns. And so, of course, they recover from the relationship and they find themselves in another relationship, sadly, that ends exactly in the same way. So as a coach, our job is, what we need to do is we need to look for those patterns, and then once we find the patterns, find the actual core triggers that initiate those patterns and help our clients to see them and then completely resolve them. In fact, just before filming this particular video, I was coaching somebody who had exactly that, had a problematic pattern going on in their relationships. Now, what it stemmed from was this particular client of mine had sexual abuse in her life. So as a result of that, when we have a traumatic experience, our unconscious mind suppresses that experience so that we are able to conduct ourselves and normalize our lives to some degree. But what happened in her experience is that because she had this particular trauma, she had suppressed it to the degree and created a protectionistic aspect to her that stopped relationships getting to the point that they got too close, that she would risk that same sexual abuse coming up again and again. So what she did is she would go into a relationship, and then when it got close to any level of commitment, she would break off the relationship. Now, she's a very smart lady. However, even though we're smart, even though we're clever, it doesn't mean we're able to see our own patterns and our own problems. So the reason we can't resolve our problems is because they're emotional, they're patternistic, they're neurological, they're so complex that it's very, very difficult for us to be able to sort through it or to see it from another dimension. If you resonate with this at some level and you kind of feel like you want some help in your life, we have a free solution session. And I'll make sure I put the link below. If you want to connect up with me and talk about anything and allow me to help you, then I would be more willing than ever to give you some help and give you some guidance. My name is Rick Schnabel. I'm Australia's #1 brain on trainer. I have earned this title because I have worked for this title. I know how to resolve people's problems. And if you want some help, please feel free to connect up with me and then we can have a chat. Bye for now.